Ben, before we take a look at how you can use your email inside Office 365, let me show you how to navigate around the Office 365 interface.
Well, how are you going to show me how to navigate? I don't even know how to get there.
Okay, fair point. Let's start with that. So you can get to Office 365 from any web browser by going to office.microsoft.com, which brings you to this screen, and then you can choose Sign In over here in the top right. Or you can also go to office365.com, which is the same screen, and you can also go to office.com, which is a similar screen, a little different. Still has the sign in the top right. I like office.com because it's the shortest to type in. So now we're going to choose sign in. Now on this computer, we've used this with Office 365 before, so it's remembering the last logins that we've used. If we haven't used it before, it's going to look like this screen here, where it's just asking for us to enter an email and a phone number. Now let's log into my account for starters. So I'm going to type in my email address associated with Office 365. And notice that when I do, I get this choice. Now you won't always get this choice, but there are two different types of Microsoft accounts. There's basically a work one and a personal one. And if you have the same email used on both, then when you put in the email, it's going to ask which one are you trying to get to.
Oh, okay.
A work account is usually going to be Office 365. It's usually something that's been assigned by your business or your school. The personal account may be something you set up if you've ever used a Xbox at your home, if you've ever used a Hotmail or an Outlook.com email account, or also if you've ever purchased anything from the Windows Store. All of those are uses of the personal Microsoft account.
Oh, okay.
So in our case, we're using a business Office 365 account. By the way, there is also a personal Office 365 account, and there are some times when people have both an Office 365 account from their business and their own personal one. But we're going to go into our work account here. I'll enter my password. And so this takes us to what's called the Office 365 Start screen. So you can see a few different things on this screen. Let me come back to this top bar, but just below that, you can see we have good afternoon because it is afternoon right now. It would say good morning if it was morning.
Gotcha.
You have a search box, so if you want to try to find an app or a document or a file that's stored in your Office 365, I could type that here. Over here, I can install Office 2016, which is the latest version of the desktop applications, onto this computer that we're using right now. I don't need that, so I'm going to close out of this box. There are also other software downloads, for example, for Skype and other products that you can get to under this Other Installs link. Below this, we have a list of all the apps that are in Office 365. Now, the apps that are associated with your Office 365 may be slightly different. For example, not everyone has Dynamics, not everyone has Sway, not everyone has Power BI, but any apps you have will be listed here. And then if we scroll down a little further, we'll see our most recent documents. Now, these are the most recent documents that we've accessed through Office 365 online. So you can see in my case, it's mostly OneNote notebooks, and then there's a Word document down here as well. Below that, we'll see our most recent OneDrive folders that I've accessed. So kind of the most recent documents I'm working on, the most recent folders that I've accessed, that's what's going to be on the start screen down below the top bar. So let's go back to that top bar. In our top left corner, you see this sort of Rubik's Cube looking thing?
Yeah, a little grid.
Yeah, this is called the App Launcher, and this is consistent throughout Office 365. If I click on that, you'll see all of my Office 365 apps. Well, not necessarily all of them. We'll talk about that in just a second. You can see right now it's Mail, Calendar, People, Newsfeed. It's the same as the list I have here. But the App Launcher is a way I can get to my apps from any other place inside Office 365. So for example, if I want to go into Mail, I can click on Mail. It opens my inbox, and now I'm in the online version of Outlook. We're going to talk about this more in the next module. But notice my App Launcher is still there. Now, on very rare occasions, you won't see that App Launcher in the top left. So, for example, if I go into Microsoft Word, this is Word Online. And see, in this screen, I don't have that App Launcher anymore.
Okay.
But once I actually go into a document, so if I go into, let's say, this notes for this particular course, once I'm actually inside a document, now you see my App Launcher is back.
Oh.
And it works just the same. The same is true for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint Online.
Okay, so that's how you would get to another app, but how do you get back to that screen that you started on?
The start screen, sure. Well, you notice there's not really a home button here. There is this thing that says home, but I'll talk about that more in just a second. Clicking on that doesn't really change anything right here. Up here at the top where it says Office 365, that's kind of the next thing along the nav bar. That's like a home button. So if I
Oh.
click on that, and that takes me back to our start screen.
Gotcha.
Now, one thing I want to point out is this start screen and the app launcher have changed a good bit since we last filmed this course. So in many modules inside this course, you'll still see the old app launcher, which looks like this, and the old start screen as well. They work more or less the same, but the new version is designed to look a little more like Windows 10. So you'll notice we're running Windows 10 on this computer. I've got my app launcher for all of my cloud apps here. Down at the bottom, I have a similar looking button, which is my start button for Windows 10, and that has all of my desktop applications here. So I can access all my desktop apps from the bottom and all my cloud apps from the top, because of course clouds are above us.
Oh.
So clicking on any of these apps will take you into that app. There's a couple of things you can do to customize your app launcher though. For one thing, notice that we're on the Home tab, if you will, of the app launcher. I can also go to the New tab. This would show me any new apps that I've added inside Office 365. I haven't added any new ones lately, so there's nothing here. I can also go to the All screen, which shows all the apps, and I can search for an app if I don't want to scroll through this whole giant list. So notice down here at the bottom, I've got a Drive to Office and a Dropbox import that I added to my Office 365, and those are not in my home screen. Now there may be things in your home screen that you just don't ever use. You want to get them out of the way. So as you mouse over each tile, notice there's a little 3-dot menu that shows up in the top right corner.
Well, I see the 3 dots. Why are you calling it a 3-dot menu?
Well, because if I click on it, I get a little menu of choices.
Oh.
Now, one of those choices is that I can unpin it from Home. That means it'll unpin it from this Home tab. So let's say that Newsfeed is one that I don't want to have on my Home tab. I can choose Unpin from Home, and now it's gone.
Well.
So I can limit my Home tab to just the apps that I use on a regular basis,
Gotcha.
knowing that if I ever need to get back to it, it'll still be here in this All list. And if I want to add this back to my Home tab, notice that as I mouse over it here, there's my 3-dot menu. Same thing, I can choose Pin to Home. And now if I go back to Home, it's still not here, but that's because I added it last, so it's
At the bottom.
at the bottom of the list. Now, how do you suppose if I wanted to move this up in the list, how do you suppose I would do it?
You could probably click the 3-dot menu and move it around. Otherwise, I'd try to drag it.
Actually, the 3-dot menu doesn't give you a place to move it. But what you can do is you can just click and drag. So if I click in the middle and drag it up,
Look at that.
it'll move it to somewhere else in the menu. Now, a couple of other things I can do to customize my app menu is notice the rest of the 3-dot menu. I could open it in a new tab. This just means it's going to open it in another tab in my browser. So for example, with Mail, if I choose that, see up here at the top, now I have 2 tabs in my browser. One still has that start screen, and then one now has my email. But back on the start screen, click that 3-dot menu again. We looked at open a new tab, we looked at unpin from Home. Resize, I can choose from 3 different sizes for most tiles. So I can choose small, which makes it a good bit smaller, about 1/4 the size. And in fact, it kind of makes it so small it's hard to get back to that 3-dot menu, but it's still there. I can also choose wide, which makes it about double the size.
Oh, okay.
So for apps you use on a regular basis, wide might be the way to go. There's also a More menu, and this gives me the option to pin it to the nav bar or look at details about this app.
So what is the nav bar?
Well, the nav bar is this, in this case, the black bar across the top. Now we can change the color of that in just a minute, but it's this top bar. So in the same way that in Microsoft Windows, I can pin apps down here to my bottom taskbar so I can get to them easily, I can do the same thing up here in Office 365. So if I choose More and pin to nav bar,
Oh, there it is.
now I have a little icon for my mail up here. I could do the same thing with Calendar, for example. So now I have my email and my calendar readily accessible up here in my nav bar.
Gotcha.
So speaking of which, let's move on down the nav bar a little bit. This big empty black area is where other notifications might appear, or if I wanted to pin more apps, I could do that. There's the 2 apps that I just pinned. This bell is my notifications. So if it's notified me that I've got a new email, that I have a new file that's been shared with me, or things like that, those will appear here. I don't currently have any notifications. I'll close that. By the way, I can close that by either clicking on the X or I can click on the bell again.
Okay.
Next to that is my settings, that little settings wheel. That gear wheel usually means settings. And here I've got a few different things that I can change directly from this. I can change the theme, start page, turn my notifications on or off. I can change my password, my language and time zones. And then I've got menus for other app settings. So a more detailed list of settings for Office 365 in general, for Mail specifically, Calendar specifically, People specifically, and Yammer specifically. And notice that if I go into one of these, if I go into Office 365, this is giving me a page where I have a lot of the same things that I just saw in that settings menu. But I also have other areas over here that I can go into as well. We'll talk about these some more in another module. One thing to know about the settings menu though, let me go back to my start screen over here, is that it's contextual. So if I open settings inside a particular app, for example, Word or SharePoint, the settings I'm going to see are specific to that app.
Okay.
Also notice that there's a search box. So if I wasn't sure where to find something, maybe language, I can just type it in and it'll find the setting for me and present it to me.
Oh, that's great, because I hate navigating setting screens.
It does make it easy if you're not sure where you want to go. I'm going to close that for just a second. We're going to come back to theme in just a minute. Moving on across the top of the nav bar, we have a help menu. That's the question mark. And just like the settings menu, there is a search bar. In this case, it says, tell me what you want to do, which is similar to most of the Microsoft desktop applications now. So again, if I wanted to change my language, I could type in language here, and it's finding that setting, but it's also finding anything else that might be in the help system related to language. In this case, not much.
Gotcha.
Finally, last but not least, I have my account menu. So it has my name, has my picture, and if I click on that, I can see a few different things. I can log out of my account here. I can view my account. There's an About Me page, which just has a little bit of information that I can customize. This is how others might see me in a company directory as well. So I can choose to update my profile. This is actually a Delve screen, and this can be a nice way to access some of your documents as well. We'll talk about Delve in another module.
Chip, you've got a 1 on your bell there.
Oh, good point. So we have a notification. I can click on that, and I've got an email that's just come in. So if I click on this, it'll take me to the email.
Gotcha.
If I close it, notice the 1's gone away. Now, one last thing I want to show you, Ben, before we move on to email. Notice in my menu, I've got a photo here.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen by default, so let me show you how to set that up by going to your account.
Okay.
So let's log out of mine. By the way, in a situation like this, when you log out of Office 365 and you have several tabs open, it's a good idea to go ahead and close those tabs because they're going to be a little unpredictable until you do.
Gotcha.
So now to log in as you, I'm going to go back to office.com. This is your business account. I happen to know your password. Now, one thing I will point out here on the login screen is this Keep Me Signed In. If this is your computer and nobody else uses it, it'll really make your life easier to check that box to keep me signed in. In this case, we share this computer, so I'll uncheck that box and choose Sign In. So you can see your start screen looks pretty much the same as mine.
Yeah, very similar.
You've also got a notification.
Yep.
So in this case, your notifications is telling you that you've been assigned to some new apps, some Dynamics 365, Flow, and 2 others.
Okay.
I could click here to go to my apps and show those. But I'm going to close this for now. One thing I want to point out is you don't have a photo. And that icon looks nothing like you.
Doesn't even have a beard.
It doesn't have a beard. So to fix your photo, I can click on that icon. So if I want to put a photo of you there, I can use this Browse button, find where I've got a photo of you on this computer, open it, and there's your photo.
Great.
I'll choose Save.
Chip, nothing happened.
That's true. Some changes you make in Office 365 take time to show up. So this may take 30 minutes to show up, or it may not show up until the next time we log out and log back in.
Gotcha.
So one other customization you can make that we can do on yours. So we looked at this before, but let's say you want to customize the look and feel of your Office 365. You can change this theme. So the default theme is pretty boring. It's a black nav bar and a general blue background. But you can choose any of these colorful backgrounds. So we could choose the mountains, we could choose the robots, we could choose the circuits, we could choose the Lego blocks.
Ooh, I like those.
Okay, we'll leave them on there. Down here at the bottom, make sure you click on Save to lock it in.
Okay.
And now anytime you log into your Office 365, you'll know it's you because it'll have Lego blocks up at the top.
Gotcha.
So that's some basics of how you can navigate around in your Office 365. Now in the next module, let's look at how you can use your email.
All right.